Hello, my name's Preston, and this is my piece called Like Magic, and I'll just read the first little bit. I wish I could remember everything that my mom would cook in that tiny kitchen in that tiny house for her tiny family. There were a lot of soups because that was an easy way to make what little food we had go a long way. Every once in a while there would be a small ham or a roast, celebrating a holiday or a birthday. But I don't remember the way my mom looked exactly when she cooked. I don't remember specific smells that would come from her craft. I can just barely remember the plates that the food was served on, though I'm sure she still has them somewhere in the house she lives in now with her husband. They were a vibrant blue with a yellow trim and a hideously obnoxious floral pattern, plates only a mother could love. But I remember helping her cook. I remember measuring out spices, sugar, flour, and tamping it down perfectly for an exact cup or spoon. I remember adding various powders to soup, pouring slowly and watching as the particles separated and eventually disappeared completely. Cooking was akin to magic to me before I understood the properties of powders and liquids, the dissolving and dissolution that happens, and why it happens easier at higher temperatures. I remember my mom chopping potatoes and beef to add to a stew or hash. She would have to chop straight down to separate segments of the roots, but she would have to slide the blade along the fibers of the meat, tearing it until it separated. What a magic knife, able to separate substances of completely different consistencies and build. I used to beg to help my mom cook. She would come home from work, exhausted, strands of her dark brown hair falling out of her bun into her face. And she would go into her room to change into an old shirt riddled with holes and some sweatpants, and go straight into the kitchen. I would follow her and ask her what's for dinner, knowing exactly what she would say. Depends on what we make, she said with a tired smile. She would start taking ingredients out of the fridge, the cupboards, the spice rack, and place them on the counter. I know that she knew way beforehand what she was going to make, but she always used to treat it like she was as much an observer of this magic act as I was. Every step in the recipe was a suggestion, a question posed by a magician. Now, if I could have a volunteer to chop these carrots. You, ma'am, if you'll be so kind as to assist me. And you, young man, if you could please measure out a tablespoon of basil, that would be grand. We used to be so poor after my mom left my dad. I don't really remember them ever being together, so my earliest memories are when we were dirt poor. The house we lived in was entirely hard wood with dull blue paint chipping on the outside, and it was infested with ants. We would have to seal anything we stored in cupboards literally airtight, or we would come back to it riddled with frantic black specks. But despite all of this, when my mom entered the kitchen, the entire place turned into a circus, with the range top being the star attraction that people would push and shove just to get a glimpse of. It was the poorest circus in the world, but it was still magic. Thank you.